You don't need to rely on AWS interface to deploy your cloud infrastructure, platforms, or websites in AWS. I will explain how, but first, let's look at this AWS dashboard. I have 2 SSH keys, 1 security group, and 2 web servers I recently terminated. The servers will be permanently deleted in a few minutes, but that's not the main thing in this video. The main goal of the video is to practically show you how to deploy infrastructure in the cloud using the command line interface. I will demonstrate how to create security groups and web server instances and connect to them using the command line interface. Using this approach, you can program your infrastructure and include it in your JavaScript, Python, or any other project. You can even access the server using SSH to deploy your applications automatically. Now, let me show you how to set up your infrastructure as code so that you only have to worry about your app and not its deployment. In this section, I will take you through setting up the environment for running infrastructure as code. We will use Pulumi, a platform that has gained a lot of traction in the last 2 years. You probably know Terraform if you are familiar with infrastructure as code. Pulumi is like an advanced Terraform version and is highly adapted for developers. You can deploy infrastructure in major cloud platforms while still using a programming language of your choice. In future videos, I will focus on Pulumi using Python. This is just a demonstration of the capability of infrastructure as code. You can deploy any infrastructure using this approach. For instance, we create a security group and link the SSH key to the server for remote access. I have used my home computer and 1 line of code to create an infrastructure stack, security group, and a Linux web server in the AWS Cloud. Now let's go to AWS to check if these resources are reflected there. As you can see, we now have 2 security groups and a new Linux web server has been created. Let's log into the server using SSH, select the server and click on connect. I will copy the SSH connection command and run it where I have placed my SSH key. Type yes to continue. Let's check if the server is working by typing pwd. All good. This was just a demo, so I deleted all the resources using Pulumi destroy command. If you want, you can also remove the stack by typing Pulumi stack rm and then the stack's name. Now let me explain slowly, step by step, how you can set up Pulumi Python for infrastructure as code as I have just demonstrated. In this section, I will take you through setting up the environment for running infrastructure as code. We will use Pulumi, a platform that has gained a lot of traction in the last 2 years. You probably know Terraform if you are familiar with infrastructure as code. Pulumi is like an advanced Terraform version and is highly adapted for developers. You can deploy infrastructure in major cloud platforms while still using a programming language of your choice. In future videos, I will focus on Pulumi using Python. Let's get started. As usual, go to a search engine and type Pulumi install. Click on the first link to Pulumi's website. Most of the time it should be the first or second link in the search results. You will get to this page, but this might change depending on when you watch this video. Select the installation option based on the operating system you are using. I am using Windows and I will download an MSI installer. Feel free to use Chocolately or Winget if you have it installed on your computer. Click on download and give it time to download. Right click to select the option for it to run after download. If this dialog pops up, select install anyway and then complete the installation process. You might or may not get a dialog to show successful installation. Whether you get it or not, go to your CLI and type Pulumi version. If the process is successful, you will get the version of Pulumi you have installed. To get started with Pulumi, you need to create an account at app.pulumi.com. This platform serves as a backup for your projects, which are organized into stacks. If you are unsure how to begin, you can select your cloud service provider and preferred programming language to receive step-by-step instructions. For our first project, we will provision AWS infrastructure using Python. The first time you use Pulumi CLI, you will be prompted to log in to your account. You will also need to make sure AWS CLI is configured correctly. If you have Pulumi set up and working properly, you can initialize an AWS Python project as follows. Type Pulumi new AWS Python and then press enter. You will be prompted to provide the project name and description. I will use YouTube as the name and give a related description. I will name the stack Francis. Since we are using Python, I will use the up arrow to select pip and then press enter. Then I will go to AWS and select a region near me. In this case, I will use AP Southeast 2. I will paste the region and then press enter. The process will take some time, so I will pause the video until it's done. Alright, the project has been initialized and we are ready to use Pulumi. Before we get started, some files related to the project were created, as you can see. Let me explain each of them. One of the files is pulumi.yaml. This file contains the project settings we have just entered, such as the project name and description. The runtime is Python and we will use pip as the package manager. The project environment has also been set as venv, making it easy to manage dependencies. The config section shows that this is a Python project. The next file is Pulumi stack name with the AWS region. Then we have the requirements.txt, which stores the Python dependencies used in the project. The git ignore should have files we don't need to share, such as our credentials. Finally, we have the main file, which is our resources file. We will define our infrastructure in this file. The file comes with a sample configuration for the AWS S3 bucket. The S3 bucket is a drive that can easily store files in the cloud. This Python script shows the basic programming structure used in Pulumi. As you can see, it is very straightforward. We start by importing the modules for Pulumi and the resource we want to initialize. In this case, we want to create an S3 bucket. We save this in a variable and export it. If we deploy this, the bucket's name will be returned. If we type Pulumi app, we will create a stack in the Pulumi cloud and an S3 bucket in the AWS cloud. The process takes a few minutes, so patience is essential. I will pause the video and return when the process is completed. That was fast. The process took 27 seconds. It will take more time to deploy complex infrastructure. Note the bucket name. We will check if we have a bucket with the same name in AWS. Go to search, type S3 and select S3 service. As you can see, we now have a bucket. This is a straightforward example. You can create any resource and you are only limited by your innovation and, of course, the cost. One of the advantages of using code-based deployment is the easy manageability of resources. For instance, when you don't need a resource, you can remove it from the stack using the CLI. Let's delete the bucket we created because we don't need it. We achieve this by typing Pulumi destroy. This command will delete the resources specified from the AWS and Pulumi stack. If you also want to remove the stack from Pulumi, you can use the command Pulumi stack rm, and then the stack's name, which in our case is YouTube, will be removed. Let me know in the comments section the type of website or CMS you'd want me to use for a complete beginner infrastructure as a service course with continuous integration and continuous delivery process, which should start in the upcoming video. I am thinking of hosting and securing a WordPress blog or PrestaShop e-commerce website. The comment section is open for your suggestions.